might have been doing math on stream. That's dangerous.
Oh god, that's the mistake.
Yeah, it's a rough one to do. This isn't, though. This is Wolf getting it right here with the approach for Dplus. They're going to take away the Victor, certainly an important one, and the Lilia to be removed from Ona. Yes, it was Ona's Lilia that really destroyed DK in that game number 3 last time these two teams met, and I think it makes a lot of sense to be taking that one away. Xin Zhao and Vi, the obligatory bans. Let's see what the final one is going to be here. Maybe a Jace, just get rid of that so she cannot pop off?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is if you ban the Jace, maybe he feels more inclined to pick up the Ambessa, and he's had fantastic games on that.
True.
So they do end up banning the Jace. I think Taliyah being open is obviously a big priority. Varus also available as well. A lot of options right now. And no matter what you take for the side of Dplus, T1 are going to have something good in return. Looks like they will go for that Varus. I think T1 should take the Taliyah when it moves over to them.
Yeah, I think Taliyah is almost higher priority than this champion right here. We'll see what T1 does decide to do. There's no Taliyah Pantheon available this time that we saw have some fantastic success yesterday. But the Varus certainly going to be high priority. Denying that one from Gumayusi, also a very important one. But let's see what T1's response is going to be. And the problem is, I don't know whether they've banned quite enough here. As you mentioned, the Taliyah, that's an obvious one. But now where does Ona go alongside it? Maybe we're just gifted an Ona Lee Sin game. Imagine that. Oh, this is good news for Dplus fans.
The 4-loss streak, Ona's like, I'm going to break it. I'm going to break it. Yeah, if you're a Dplus fan, this is what you were hoping to come through. And also not, I mean, decent setup with the CC, but not like the strongest, most intimidating pairing. Taliyah Pantheon sounds a lot scarier than Taliyah Sejuani.
Yeah.
And now for Dplus, looking at the Rise for Showmaker here as a solid mid option.
Yep, Blind Rise is something that we have been worried about in the past, but it's not blind, it's into Taliyah, and so this makes a little bit more sense. No dashes on a Rise, so you don't need to worry about the rocks. It's kind of
cool. And wondering what we'll see for Lucid here. I would assume a jungle pick comes through. There's things like the Poppy's open, the Viego, the Wukong. All picks I could imagine them picking up in this situation.
I do like the Wukong. Wukong angle is kind of fun. Does mean that Xiu's pick is going to go a little bit wide, but they're listening to us, Orcs. They are thinking that the Wukong could certainly be a choice. Wukong into Sejuani is a tale as old as time. We've seen it in the LCK many, many times. Sort of the understandable answer, but Lucid, like, during his utterly dominant streak in Challenger, Wukong was at the height of his popularity, and so utilized it a lot to get a lot of victories.
Yep. And here you have choices. You can either pick something for Doran, or you can pick an AD carry to match for Guma. They end up looking towards the Camille. We've seen this rise up a bit in priority, and also, you know, a good matchup into the Ambessa. We often saw when Ambessa first came out, Camille was a pick that was being used as an answer into it, and obviously Ambessa's a bit weaker than when she came out.
Yep.
So kind of twofold. One, you're securing a pick that pairs well to Sejuani, it works well for T1, but two, also making that Ambessa pick feel uncomfortable, and immediately going to start banning away top laners with that Jax taken off the cards. Now for Dplus, I think you start to target the AD carry pool. Xayah going to be taken away from Guma immediately.
Yeah, this is, it feels like a bit of a gambit. I think picking up Gumayusi's pick would have been the safest option there for T1, but this is kind of cool, you know? Picking the Camille and then protecting it as best you can. Of course, Poppy, kind of difficult matchup there as well, as you can Steadfast Presence the hookshot, and it is pretty telegraphed. The Jax, we understand this one. This has been the classic matchup. Now it's like Xiu can go towards Fiora if you want to get into that sort of territory, but it looks like Camille's going to be pretty safe there towards the top side as the Alistar immediate lock-in.
That R4 Alistar is so common that we end up seeing that come through. Interestingly, I opted to ban the Lucian instead and left that one available. And the thing is, you're never going to have too much fun on the side of Dplus playing into T1's composition if you're playing an engaged support, specifically because of that Taliyah. Makes a lot of champions' lives hell, or no, I do not like the Rakan here.
The good old Rakan into Taliyah. Happens a lot.
K'Sante did get buffed slightly. Not sure it's enough really to feel positive about. And also, K'Sante, I feel like even when K'Sante was really strong, Taliyah was one of those champions who actually held him accountable. Taliyah and Camille you actually take damage on this champion when you're playing into those two. So a little concerning. And I really hope it's... I mean, Wukong Rakan is a cool combo, but into Talia, into Camille, you only get exploded if you pick Rakan here. So please, I'm hoping it is not the Rakan.
It depends what Beryl's goals are. But the Braum is going to come in, so his goals may not be die over and over again, because if that was his goal, then the Rakan would have been locked in. The MF just going to be picked face up into a Braum. Doesn't necessarily feel fantastic, but the ways this composition can flank on T1's side means that the door value, even if you are just picking MF straight up into it, is still not going to be that high.
Yeah.
It really felt like T1 had taken away a lot of the tools used to try and keep this Camille down. So Doran actually, I feel, is going to be a bit of a main character moving into this game number 2 as T1 poised for a 2-0 over DK here in our Saturday Showdown. See whether they can do it.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, T1 fans in full voice here in Lowell Park, but you can feel some of the desperation on the DK side at the same time. We'll see whether that is going to pay off as we get into it. Faker on his Talia, a pick that he has found a lot of success on in the past. Not necessarily in his like top 10 most iconic picks, but those ones are, you know, champions he's been playing a whole lot of times for a very, very long time. So still going to be a good one. And I think this season as well, his Talia has looked good.
Did just land a full threaded volley on the Showmaker, who kind of stopped moving after that.
Yeah.
Seemed like I could see Rise sigh. He didn't, but it felt like I could see him sigh.
I could kind of feel him flex. He's like, I can take it. You know, that's what I felt.
That's a positive way to look at it.
Yeah.
I feel like Beryl would definitely do that.
Yeah. He did. He did that over and over again in the last game, and then they lost. It's kind of how that one went. And that is not a criticism, because of course I do not actually understand what makes Beryl the way he is. Maybe these deaths in some of these games are why he's a 2-time world champion. As headbutt out, Gumayushi's still going to be taking a bit of damage here as Beryl does find that first Winter's Bite. And the second one as well, this time eaten by the cow. As Aiming and Beryl still needing to deal with this wave, Gumayushi doing a good job just focusing that one down, trying to get to that level 2 as quickly as possible.
You've got to be a little bit cautious in this matchup as T1's bot lane, because playing into Braum typically in extended fights, you do lose out because of passive stacking, but particularly MF Alistair into Varus Braum, the longer the trade goes, the longer the fight goes, the worse you lose it. You know, you have the passive for that initial burst from Guma. Short trades, poke trades like that, perfect. That's exactly how you wanted to go. If it turns into an all-in, it does get a bit messy. I will say, Ignite for Carrier versus Heal for Beryl does give it a bit of advantage in the all-in, but I don't think it's really going to be enough unless it's a big misplay from Dplus' bot lane.
Huh. So, 2025 has not been a good year for the Cassante.
Yeah. I mean, he's been nerfed so many times, and the buff he got in return, which I believe was like his W damage.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like it does.
I don't think it's enough to really change the game. And especially, you know, maybe there's a scenario where Cassante is really good and you're like, okay, this feels phenomenal, but into Camille, I think Camille's going to have a fine time, particularly into this composition with Talia, who just, the Unraveled Earth really chokes out what Cassante wants to do, which is dash all the time, and also she actually can cut through him.
Yeah.
Often with her building like Leandri's.
I can clarify what the buff was. It was 5 base damage to Pathmaker, which is W.
Wow.
And so, doesn't really do all that much. As Ona looking to grab himself a scuttle. Things have been quiet in the jungle, as we've seen thus far. And even though there are some difficulties towards that top side, I do think that this Wukong is going to be incredibly important in this game for DK. I think the team fighting for them as well is going to be very, very strong. And there's not a massive amount of range on T1's side, right? So this could be a possibility. We have to remember that as well, like with the Cassante, there is the fact that you can drag the Camille out of a Hextech Ultimatum with your ulti, and that can help cancel it. So the setup isn't quite as good if it is just onto this top laner. So there is that. There's the understandable reason as to why he picked it. It's just not sure whether it's exactly the greatest. There's good flash there from Aiming as Beryl also able to get out of the way and puts up the door in a really good spot. And they're even able to turn this. A lot of value from that piercing arrow, but both flashes now on cooldown, and Gumayusi holds on to his. Good news for T1.
There could not be a clearer indicator that they didn't know Owner was there than when Beryl jumped in.
Wait, no, but this is the thing. Is that an indicator of that?
Any other player, I'd say yes.
Exactly, because you watched him in the last game.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right, Lucid. Coming on over, seeing whether he has an avenue in. It looks like the answer is going to be no. And aiming, you can see with a lethal tempo as well, so going for more of that on-hit version of the Varus. Over a ward goes Lucid once again, so the bottom lane understanding that they can continue to push forward for T1. This first Drake is going to spawn. It's going to be an Ocean, meaning that our Soul could be a good one. And she back up here towards his top side. Pulverize is going to connect there onto aiming. He's taking a lot of damage. Remember, no flash. Has to cleanse. As Keria throws down the late ignite.
Yeah, Beryl actually out of mana, which is kind of hard to do in a Braum, if I'm being real. Definitely a lot of Winter's Bite spam. Now the Hex Flash coming in.
Yeah, over the wall goes Keria. And he's out of turret range. Finds a double Pulverize. Make a Rain comes down as Gumayusi comes on over. The door is set up at first blood. Still goes over to the Misfortune. And Beryl, like you say, didn't have a whole lot of the blue stuff, but is now going to have to deal with another wave as Keria finds yet another Pulverize. He will die, and Beryl is fine. And Gumayusi decided that he did not want to kill him.
All in Beryl's plan. He's the carry.
Yep. Showmaker is coming down towards his bottom side as well. As he realm warps in, he's got a flash.
Kill, he's got cleanse.
Yeah. So Showmaker's still going to flash for it. Throws a Q, doesn't quite do enough damage. And so is going to trade his flash for a cleanse, which I would say in my little book of conversions, that's not worth.
Look, this is an assumption, and I'm not saying it's true. But I think it'd be very funny if he realm warps in, and he's like, what sums does BMF have? Beryl's like, no sums, no summoners at all.
Yeah.
Flashes, cleanses.
And immediately tilts.
Grumbles a little bit.
Yeah.
Not saying that was the case, but it would be very, very... That happens all the time in solo queue when you jungler's like, what sums does bot lane have?
Yeah, no sums, quick. You need to come, you need to come.
Go for the flash play in, and then they just flash out and everyone dies. I was like, oh, no, they still had, that one.
Awkward, it must have just come up, haha.
Yeah, the lack of mana for Beryl means he saves his mana for his E, but doesn't have mana to Q as well. Guma flashes through the wall to kill, and it's just... This is just bad lane management from the side of Dplus. The fact that you have a scenario where Beryl's out of mana and aiming's that low shouldn't really be happening.
Yeah. Still, we have to really point out that T1 did get the much better end of that trade. They not only get first blood, but they also keep Gumayusi around as aiming died, so isn't able to pick up experience and gold and all that sort of stuff. And so as you can see, 400 gold lead for the MF going to be far more important than Beryl having a 140 ahead of Keria. As DK thinking about going for a contest, but I don't know about it. As Seismic Shove going wide. Keria comes in, gets a Pulverize onto Lucid, who does get the decoy off. And now Doran just says, nope, you do not have a jungler. They also take down the Dragon on the back end as aiming. He is just going to get evicted from this area. No flash, no chance. And Gumayusi even able to walk on over, give him a love tap, take him down. Shu on this top side of the map is at least trying to get something back, but I don't know whether it's going to be enough to make that play worthwhile.
Great moves from Doran to come down there. As soon as they saw the 5th member, Dplus knew they were cooked, but no summoners on that bot lane meant they were never going to be able to get out of that situation. And just, again, it just feels a little bit messy from Dplus, a little bit misguided. The deficit isn't that big so far in this game, but T1 looking a lot cleaner so far.
Yeah. And Gumayusi looking great on this Misfortune as well. So we're going to have a look at it one more time.
It's like they're setting up for this fight. T1 are grouped together and Showmaker's at a complete distance. And also just, you know, question mark pings coming out on the top lane. We're like, oh, where's Doran? Oh, there he is. Yeah, and because they don't have flashes on Beryl or aiming, they just all die.
And yes, you see, aiming having the difficulty of not being able to walk very fast to get out of Seismic Shoves. So Faker able to pull him back in, get another kill for Gumayusi to make that lane even more difficult for this Varus. As T1 looking to take down these grubs at the same time. They will be one objective away from picking up feats of strength in this game if that does in fact come in. Showmaker looking to try and defend as Gumayusi Keria are set up. Owner is taking the grubs. They're just taking all sorts of things all the time. And T1's lead, I think, is only going to extend from this point on, as Lucid looking to try and at least get a crab, consolation crab there for the Wukong. She looking to go a little bit aggressive. Even has time to go back and get the cannon. You like to see that. And Keria, I feel like he's everywhere this game. As the Cyclone comes in, can Keria actually get in there to headbutt Lucid under the turret? And he does, in fact, do so. He flashes away. Realm Warp going to come on through. That gets rid of Beryl. So Beryl lives, and Lucid is very dead.
Feels desperate. You know, great move there from Keria, hiding in the brush in between. Been able to spot Lucid moving around, but it just feels like these plays they're going for desperation really wasn't in position for follow-up to come through onto Guma, and Lucid does go down. It seems like Dplus's woes are just getting more and more dear.
Yes, it's not looking great. She does get the knockback. That was a cute little play. Looks for the all-out angle, but Doran just able to use the ult, gets back behind him, and Shiu doesn't have that angle anymore. Still going to be able to get the ult out for basically free here. And so the Cassante looking pretty good at this point in time, at least.
Siona hanging around for cover, but he has gone now.
As let's see how greedy Doran is going to be. As let's see the replay instead.
Yeah, so
Keria's perspective.
I think it was an ambitious play, even if Keria wasn't there. But Keria being there just meant there was no chance of it working. You know, Showmake's not able to get into range, into position to follow up.
Yeah, it was beautifully done. Owner also over the wall with the Glacial Prison towards the end there, just to put the icing on the cake. Worked out very, very well. As Lucid on top of a ward once again. They've been tracking this Wukong so effectively. It feels like T1, no surprises on the map for them whatsoever. Whereas DK are doing a lot of guesswork, and they have not been guessing correctly.
Oh no, they have not.
As Doran now, Trinity Force in hand. Gumishi looking to lock down this bottom outer turret. And DK, I don't know whether they'll be able to get in, as Shiu's going to move down. Faker's in position, though. Shiu desperately trying to get towards this turret. He takes a fair bit of damage, but he is pretty tanky. And he gets over to the other side of the wall. Lucid going in. And Shiu clears out the wave. Yeah, now that he's here, Shiu's like, how do I get down? You know, it's like doing that mountain climbing where you climb up and you're like, wait a second. How am I supposed to figure out my way back? As Showmaker teleports in, and maybe that is the way he did it. Just asks his teammate to bring a ladder.
Just save him, just keep top lane. Oh.
Okay, Chains of Corruption going down. Remember, Doran doesn't have the ulti as they get the stun down onto Doran, but he's just quite tanky enough. And DK not going to be able to get the kill. Still, they get the flash, and that is important.
Really, the difference here is aiming not having that first time completed. If he had that Blade of the Rune King, I think Doran would have just been dead. But the deficits, the gold deficit, showing that, you know, even plays that make sense start to fail when you're lacking that extra bit of damage.
Well, speaking of an extra bit of damage, I think Faker certainly has it. As the threaded volley is coming down, we're going to stop watching that one as Lucid comes in, and the hook shot is so good from Doran. Bullet time comes down as well. Beryl almost just dead from that one, but they do manage to get the Camille, but at what cost? The answer is everything.
Easy cleanup from the side of T1. You know, Dplus go for that initial play onto Doran when he steps forward, but here, you've waited too much time. T1 have reset, they found a position where they can all collapse in, and it feels like Dplus just blindly grabbing at whatever they can, and T1 slapping the hand away.
Yep. Yeah, slapping the hand away, and then the hand hits them in the head.
Yes.
Is kind of how it goes. As, yes, they do manage to kill Doran, but Beryl unable to stop Doran from being able to hookshot his way out. Gumiushi unanswered on the bullet time, and then just comes on over and auto-attacks them down. T1 just rotating more crisply, right? And you've got Shiu, yeah, he's in the mid lane, he's able to get like a plate or two or something like that, but a Cassante being 180 gold ahead just doesn't really mean anything at all.
Yeah.
I think the MF being 1.6k ahead at 13.5 minutes into the game is probably the more important thing.
It's looking pretty scary. It's looking pretty bad. And also, you know, you have a Braum on your team. You're kind of relying on like the Wukong to be engaging, and Lucid is falling further and further behind. Like, look at the health bar of the Wukong compared to Sejuani.
Yeah.
You dive in as this Wukong, you're probably just dead immediately.
Well, Lucid is going to dive in and just flashes away and dies.
Wow.
Like, why? Still, Showmaker and Shiu, they're going to come on over. All Out is going to be used to separate Ona from this fight, but he just gets back towards this collapse onto Showmaker. And Gumayusi, he comes down yet again. They've set the table for it, and they're now looking to grab these kills. Glacial Prison comes on through once more, but Shiu, pretty tanky, so isn't going to be dying just yet. In the meantime, Faker on that top side of the map is looking to take down this turret. He should be able to do so. Remember, first turret blood still on the cards. No feats of strength taken just yet. It is just one objective away here for T1. As 3,000 gold is still the lead. Faker's still up here. Should be able to get this.
This is kind of what I was worried about after game one. Game one, Dplus had a lead, had an advantage, managed to push it a little bit, and then they started to flounder and T1 pulled back. This is a game, though, where T1 are the ones who led the charge, who have the advantage, and it just doesn't even look remotely close.
Nope. I feel like the floundering is where we started.
Yeah.
Instead of what we got to.
He takes so much damage before the red even goes down. Like, maybe the thought process is, hey, we can collapse on them. Then commit to the fight. You know, you're dying for a red buff, and then you're opting into a 2v2 when you're behind, and then Guma turns up as well. It's just... I think even Dplus, if the players were looking at this play, which undoubtedly they'll review, they won't have any justification. They'll be like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing either. It just really feels like they're a little bit lost right now.
It's looking like that. It's sort of been the tale of the week, to be perfectly honest. A loss against KT is not something many of us were expecting.
Weak like EA or weak like EE?
Both.
Yeah, I
pick one. Or just, yeah, do both.
Just both.
I think it's fine. Showmaker and Lucid going to see whether they can kill Faker. And Faker just skates away.
Yep.
Could be something to transition into some sort of Artican play, as I say. That's
Let's punish Faker in the side lane. That's never failed before. That's always a solid strategy against T1. I'm sure he's all by himself and doesn't have the entirety of the Avengers ready to assemble the second something goes wrong.
The old Avengers or the new ones?
Both of them together.
Oh, all of them?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rift Herald is just going to be secured here by T1. And Showmaker's standing on a ward. That could be scary. Blast Cone here. It's an Infernal Soul, so we'll have a few extra Blast Cones. Sorry, Valdez. As, yes, T1 just trying to get even more control just to make sure that Faker can very safely take this turret on this top side. As I've seen fights in this area happen before, as Beryl throws out an ulti for fun.
Yes, so engage form still not working too hotly.
Yeah. He did hit 2 people with it. So there's that.
So you're saying it's not his fault?
No, I'm saying he should have probably not done it because no one was there to do anything about it. Because even though the thing that he wanted to happen happened, there was no actual result.
Yeah, it wasn't a skill issue, it was a decision issue.
Yes, it was certainly one of those. It's okay, Lucid just clearing things out. And let's see where T1 are going to strike next. Just feels already like it's a circling of the drain. It's a 4,000 gold lead, and that is pretty considerable here for 17.5 minutes. And look at that, linear gold graph. If you were Tom or Coma, you'd be sitting backstage, you're like, yes, that is right, boys. That's how we want to snowball a lead.
Yep. And this could end up being a win in the Sejuani for Ona, breaking that loss streak.
Yeah, this is the important thing on T1's side. What was it, 0-4?
Yep,
that seems crazy. As Headbutt Pulve under Beryl. Ona swings a flail at him as okay. Aiming going to start this one up. He's already down very low. There's the flash forward. Can they actually kill Guma? Here's the question. The answer so far is no. They take down Beryl finally. They overextend far enough to kill the Misfortune, but now the rest of them are likely to go down. Doran just executes aiming underneath the turret. And Shiu trying to escape. That blast cone direction was looking a little dicey, but he gives them the good old thumbs up as he exits. But they didn't need to kill Shiu to feel really good about how this fight goes, as Lucid is just running for the hills. And he will get out, but at what cost?
I'm not sure why Lucid didn't flash. I actually think, like, don't get me wrong, they probably would have lost that fight anyway. But if you're going to go for that play, and Guma flashes your Cyclone, you have to flash after. I find that so... Did he not have the flash available at the time? I want to see the replay and check, because...
Yeah, it might have just been coming up or something like that, because I was kind of waiting for that angle as well, as Faker will find Shiu, who dashes over some rocks, but is otherwise going to be okay. Let's have a look at it one more time and check. Yeah, flash not quite up.
Wasn't quite available, because if you look here, He goes for Guma, and then I expected a flash now to come in.
Yep.
So he could follow up and get the knock-up, and then Guma just dies, and yes, it's still a hard fight, but a lot more playable. And as you can see, his flash only coming up in a few seconds, so really unfortunate. The problem is, you may think, oh, well, why didn't he just wait for his flash? But moments like those, timings like those, when you're this far behind, you don't get a pick and choose.
Nope.
They come, and you either try and take it, or you don't. They try to take it, it backfired, and now things are looking even more dire.
Man, aiming is looking, yeah, like he doesn't really have very much in this game. 1-4-1 on this Varus. And still just looking for some scraps to try and put together his second item, that Rage Blade. Looking full of rage, but not a lot of blade at this point in time. And 2 items already done here. Gumyushi does have his Lord Doms as well as that Bloodthirster already done. This MF is just very, very powerful. 11 out of 12 as far as kill participation is concerned as well. Highest in the game. Really nicely done. Beryl, cute sidestep there from Ona, but still not going to be able to find anything from this play. Is DK going to need a bit of a miracle to try and get back into this one. And it feels like T1, they don't give the opportunities, right? Because they're not overextending into vision that they don't have, as the bullet time is so good. Beryl's door does pretty much nothing, and aiming is just shredded. Down goes the Wukong as well, as there is an all-out, so they kill Gumyushi one more time. As Showmaker also might be able to get a kill onto Carrier. There is that one. Shiu gets himself out of there, but I don't know whether Showmaker wins this 1v1 against Ona, and he does not. Down goes the Cassante as well, as T1 complete the ace with only the sacrifice of their bottom lane, and you can see Shiu just head in hands. Showmaker not really sure of what to do, and this is looking like a bit of a glum DK at this point in time.
Yep, all they're really achieving is just hampering away at Guma's KDA. In terms of the game state, it's just getting worse and worse. Every time they take down that MF, feels like they pay for it 5-fold. And here, just walk up, they're on a wall, disengage, comes out from Carrier. The shield's a little late from Beryl, and even then, I think, you know, I was wondering, did he put points to Z? I think I got my answer just from seeing that play.
Yeah.
Shredded.
Did he use his E, is what I was trying to consider. And then I did see that it was there.
It reduces the damage by a lot less when it's just a rank 1 ability, so... You know.
Yeah, not fantastic.
I know you haven't heard me talk about this too much before.
No, I haven't.
The skill ordering on the Braum.
Especially not in games that T1 are in.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it before, ever.
A lot more damage reduction when you put more points into it. So
where are we going? Carrier just deciding that...
Well, fortunately, it does still charge, even if you goop it like that.
Yeah.
So if they do get it to the tower, it will do the charge again. Why they gooped it like that?
Maybe Carrier was thinking about, like, he used it as a way to face check safely. And there was no one there, so he didn't need to worry about it, but maybe they didn't have that level of information.
Okay, I thought it was... I think maybe it was... The patch note said if you, like, charge into something and it doesn't, like, hit a tower, it will do the charge anyway. But maybe...
Yeah.
So far away from a tower? I don't know. I don't know. But,
didn't look great. Still looked like it was a bit of a problematic scenario, as you've got Showmaker moving down towards the bottom side with teleport in hand to get rid of that minion wave. T1 getting to work on the Otacon, and DK have no real right to move up even into their topside jungle. And so this will just be T1's, not a whole lot of answer. As Lucid wanting to trade for an Infernal Drake.
I don't think he gets to make that trade.
Well, I mean, we know that there are a couple towards the top side, but it looks like DK may not have full information. Showmaker coming on over. There's a teleport in from Doran. DK going to have to be swift about this one if they want to lock this down, as they do manage to secure it, get some bounty gold as the Cyclone comes in. Lucid looking for Faker there, but Faker moves out of the way of the Cyclone. Very nicely done. Hextech Ultimatum onto aiming in the back line. What's this Varus ever supposed to do this game? And it is get shoved and then bullet timed to death, as Lucid, that was a bit tricky, gets himself over the wall as Shiu trying to get into that backline, goes all out and pulls Doran over, but he's so incredibly low. Gumyushi is looking for that kill, and he should be able to get it. Still, actually, Shiu doing some work, but Gumyushi's a raid boss. He is massive. That's another ace for T1. And I don't know whether they'll need that many more of those in order to win this game.
No, they won't quite end it right now, but the game is over. Even if the Nexus isn't going to get destroyed. So we see they try and make an engage onto Guma, but he opts to walk away from both the Sante and the Realm Wolf threat. Splashes over the wall, and then this engage, Aiming just doesn't get to play the game at all.
And I thought that he was going to die from the shove, so he survived a little bit longer than I was expecting, but still didn't really auto-attack or do very much of anything at all. And here Shu does manage to at least kill Doran. But a sacrifice of Doran for the greater good is something that every Doran team is very, very good at utilizing.
Yep.
You can see in this game, Doran is actually quite fed, even though he is still a bit behind in farm.
And with 211 heart steal stacks, it's so rare we see that many.
Yeah, that's some value.
The LCK game.
It's also quite rare that we see Lucid sitting at 0-6. This has been a pretty, pretty bad week.
I actually didn't want to look at that, so.
All right. Well, you don't have to.
I don't really appreciate you pointing out to me.
That's why I said it, so that you don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Beryl still getting into the jungle here, still trying to make something happen, but unfortunately it feels like the only things that DK can really make happen this game are, you know, 1 for 5 trades, which isn't necessarily in their favor. Zona looking for another avenue in. Not going to be able to find Beryl with the Winter's Wrath, but I don't know whether that will matter. Baron going to be next on the cards. Been up for 22 seconds. All right, Realm War play. They want to kill Gumayusi one more time as the seismic shove is so perfectly placed. Showmaker goes Golden Shiu into that backline. They might be able to kill Gumayusi, but I guarantee they are all dead after that as Ona takes down the Rise. Doran getting on in there. Man, it's doing so much damage. Shiu dashing around, doing cool stuff, but you know what? He's dead. And there is not a whole lot to be said other than that. T1, even though they don't have their 80 carry, they will be able to pick up a Baron. And that is going to be yet another 1 for 5 trade.
Max, do you remember, I think it was an MSI game, and it was on Faker's birthday, and I think he was playing against a Turkish representative, and they went 5-man mid and killed him level 1.
Yeah, that was, and Dumbledore got the kill.
Yes. And then from then on, SKT blasted them.
Yeah.
This kind of feels similar energy, where it's no longer about the outcome of the game, it's about killing Guma. I don't know why, I don't know what he did, but Dplus have one goal, and that is to ruin that man's KDA. The game is done, but they've achieved killing Guma a few times now.
I mean, I think sometimes when you realize that something's too hard, you just lower the expectation. You know? Just like, we're probably not going to win a team fight, but guys, we can kill Guma.
Yeah.
And you know what? They achieved it, and it's about finding...
They achieved it 3 times.
It's about looking at the positives. Which, like, the biggest positive is probably Ona and the turnaround that he's had on his Sejuani for this season. Because, of course, his Sejuani was fantastic in previous seasons. Just hasn't been able to find the same level of success with it. And Doran now with 3 items, GA completed. I don't think he's dying again.
Something that was talked about a lot on Space in the pre-show was the fact that one of the things with the Sejuani is you'll less have to carry yourself, and T1 has been so owner-reliant, so it's a good omen seeing them win with him on the Sejuani.
Shiu is taking a lot of damage as Doran trying to chase him down. Aiming is going to push him away, but it's not going to stop this inhibitor from going down. DK, it is feeling circular in motion. They are just slowly but surely going down the drain. As Shiu does get his health bar back, Weave as well just to block off Lucid from this fight. Seismic Shove does not connect, but the Hextech Ultimatum goes in. There's another gorgeous bullet time as Gumayusi cuts them down. Kill credit going over to Doran. Sitting on 10 now this game. What a monster. Seismic Shove's gorgeous there from the GOAT. And I think T1 may have just done it far more swiftly than the last time, as Carrier does what he likes to do at the end of games, which is die to the fountain laser, and that's going to mean that it isn't the classic for this particular game, which is 1 for 5 trades. Nexus still going to go down, though, and T1 looking clean with it here today.
Yeah, and obviously we talked about at the start of the day, Carrier